This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. The emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurs is a ride not many of us want to get on. Listen in as the Two Business Guys Mastermind on ways to manage that roller coaster and smooth out that ride. Enjoy. All right. Hey, John, man, I tell you, I think today's topic of, getting back to the new normal or this feeling that you're just not succeeding is going to do a lot of good for some people today. We happen to be in that same space, right? When we were thinking, will I ever, like you said, will I ever see the same kind of success? And what we were just talking about was, it's like a movie sometimes, right? Our life is like that movie where, the hero, their life is blown up and they spend the rest of this time that we're watching the movie trying to get back to normal, trying to get back to what we put our hands on as success. And what John and I were masterminding about was, well, how do you get back to that feeling of success? Super success. Even though everything around you, John, you know this from, the life that we're living now, when you had the company, top of the world, right? So the company, and then now, we can look at the sale as the life blowing up. It was a good sale. It was a good exit. But yet now you feel, you explain it to the audience, man. You can do it better than I can.
Yeah. And just to be transparent, I've been in a funk in regards to this kind of in a depressed state. And I was talking with my wife last night, and it's hard to see the good things when you're focused on the one thing it seems to take the scope of your life. And the reason I'm saying this is yesterday, Thanksgiving weekend, day after Thanksgiving, and my wife and family, we all went on a hike. And my wife could tell that, hey, you're in a different world. You know what I mean? And it's like, I felt like I couldn't have fun. I can't have fun until I reach that state again.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a state of limbo. So what I'm doing is I'm missing out on other aspects of life because of this. I feel paralyzed by this. Hey, this isn't what I felt before. I want to get back to that state of where I feel the success. And so it's like everything is on hold. Well, life doesn't work that way. Still, life goes on around us. And are we gonna miss that? Which I have. I mean, that experience, I was physically, I was on the hike with them, but emotionally and mentally, there were other things that were going through my head.
Yeah, I know when we have Rebecca Span come in and talk to, the entrepreneurs where I teach entrepreneurship, and she speaks, very eloquently about the feelings and the emotions and the moods within entrepreneurship, right? The entrepreneur has a high rate of depression, has a high rate of suicide, high rate. And for a variety of reasons, somebody is trying to get back what they had before. Somebody's trying to achieve what they see from others, right? You see someone else winning awards and you go, why am I not winning awards? I'm doing the humpity hump. I'm feeding my family. I'm doing good. It doesn't go recognized, right? And then you feel a certain way. We have to be very careful of that feeling simply because we know if we took a look from a gratitude perspective, right? And guys, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I just read a lot of therapy books, right? I think you could read yourself well, but it really comes down to how are we viewing what we're doing And
mm,
how are we missing what is successful?
mm,
Right. And like I told you, I successfully married, successfully raising kids, successfully going in and working in a position that is helping entrepreneurs. All of these checkoffs that are success, 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 where someone else would look in on your life and go, living pretty good, had a successful exit from a company that you ran and grew. I mean, all of these checkoffs, right? And yet, so someone else might look in on that life and go, "Are you kidding me? I'll trade you." And that doesn't do anything for the person that's out there feeling a certain way. But and I was reminding John that I was watching this Lewis Howes webinar, or not webinar, but podcast, and he had Rhonda Byrne. Everybody knows Rhonda Byrne from The Secret and all of the mega success that The Secret had, right? And how she was really getting on talking about we have to grab our gratitude points. And Lewis kept asking her, do you feel, that you'll ever get back to that level of success? And she was basically saying, I don't need to. I'm happy. Right? She said, I don't get upset anymore with people. I mean, just all these different things that she was like being able to check off. And you saw what she was doing was turning the conversation around to say, but I have so much to feel great about.
mm.
And then she says, none of the books that she's written since have had that same success. She says, but it doesn't matter. And she said, I would feel very okay that if, everything's all over, boom. And this is the one big thing that I did, right? And I thought, man, that's an interesting way to look at it. But can we now apply those same things? Now, when John and I are talking to everybody out there, we're saying, hey, use some business principles. Here's something to now put into your life. This is the same concept but we're saying it from a different perspective. We're saying, if we could look at what somebody else is doing to get themselves out of a funk, who would that be for you? Who do you know that has been in a funk, that has pulled from some principles from somewhere and was able to raise themselves out of that situation? Right.
And
And can we do that? Can we find that and then apply it like we would a business problem?
it's funny that you mentioned Rhonda saying, hey, if it was all over today, I'm content with that. Because last night I said to my wife, it's like, I feel like I've outlived my good. And it's like, what am I here for? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, high achievers, people who work their tail off and try to do more in life. I think that's a burden that's always on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Um, and it at this stage in my life, it's like, man, do I have anything left in me? Am I any worth anything anymore? Or, you know,
Yeah. So,
is it?
entrepreneurs, think about it like that. How
Mhm.
are you processing where you are right now? Right. And I guess one of my biggest things, and of course, we don't want this to be, the depression talk or nothing like that. That's not it. But if we can't be, transparent and help you understand that these kind of waves of feelings will occur, then we wouldn't be seriously masterminding about business. Right. And this is the emotional side of business and how many times have we seen people have super success? Right? And you go, oh my God, they got millions and millions of dollars, millions and millions of fans, and they're depressed, right? Absolutely. Because they're feeling like maybe I'm the light bulb that has burned its lumens, right? Or burned bright and it's about to burn out. So, we have to, I think, constantly check our emotions in a way and they constantly be reminded, but I'm shining light on somebody's life. So I'm
Mm,
still of use,
mm,
right? I may be dimmer, but for them that had no light, I may be lighting the way. And we got to be reminded of that. And it doesn't always come in, a letter.
mm,
Hey, you were my light, right? And this is why we do podcasts and we have conversations and we talk. So
mm,
we hope that somebody hears this and go, man, that was a good one today. it veered off from the business perspective, but then it started talking about stuff that I may be feeling, because those two dudes were being transparent. My biggest one that I feel, John, is oftentimes from the it's like, are you being lazy today,
Mm-hmm.
or are you achieving all that you have on your board? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you mailing it in today? And any days that I mail it in and I just go, man, I just don't feel like doing a lot. That's the days where I feel the blue moods or whatever, right? I start feeling a little down because I know that I did not live up to what I can do. So think about that. Are you living up to what you can do? If we say, well, I would like to get back to the same whatever it is. And then you say, yeah, but I don't want to put in the same effort.
Mm-hmm.
Then
But
it's a question of effort.
but the reality is, I think that you do put the time in, because what you do is, just like all of us, you will overcompensate in
Yeah.
ways. So hey, it might be 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and you might say, hey, you know what, I've got to go take a walk, or get right with my head. But Saturday at 8 o'clock at night, or 10 o'clock at night, or midnight, you're working. Just like, that's what we do
Yeah.
as achievers. And sometimes we work ourselves too much, and I've felt that, is like, hey, this isn't going as fast or the way that I want it, and so I'm gonna make it by putting more time and sacrificing other parts of
Yeah.
my life.
Sure. Yeah. And that's when we look at it like that, that becomes, how they talk about um, kind of going with your body rhythms, right? And I don't know if you guys have ever heard anything about that, biorhythms, and if I work, I can get something done throughout the night, right? Work till 4 in the morning, work till 4 in the morning. I feel funny the next day. I mean, it's like, wow, I got this done, but I've thrown off my rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they talk about your rhythms being the thing that you've gotten used to. And when you throw that off, now you're feeling a certain way and you don't quite know what it is. Your hormones have been affected because guess what? You were, as they say, burning the midnight oil, right? And you're just off. That's one of those opportunities for us to take a look at, how do we best achieve? I mean, I remember when I took the Kobe test, and it told me a couple of things about how I like to best achieve. KOLBE. And it was very illuminating because it told me what really gets me going and what doesn't, right? And had found myself doing the what doesn't, and I wasn't feeling right, as opposed to getting back to what does. And it just takes a day sometimes to reset and say, what gives me joy, right? What brings me that feeling of euphoria? What is it? And then, can I do it? Right now, when I'm doing a podcast, when I'm doing stuff on camera, when I'm in front of people and I'm being of help and service, right? I'm, bringing all the stuff that I know and have learned and have read and experienced. And then I am now exchanging that value. That's when I'm at my best. And it's the craziest thing. But my Saturday morning, podcast, doing it with you, and the other podcasts that I do, that's when I feel the best. So then I ask, well, why aren't I doing more of that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What, why do we why are we being hard headed and doing all the other stuff that comes afterwards, right? I got to edit the videos. I got to now do the marketing. I got to go and do this kind of stuff, right? And like I say, when I took the COVID test, it told me stop doing that latter part and do more of the former, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what does it for you. Your whole day is different. So I think if, as entrepreneurs, if we can start knowing ourselves enough, and this is one thing that I remember Rhonda was talking about on that Lewis House video. She says, knowing yourself, right? Your truth, knowing yourself and your truth. That is the area that you're trying to get to, right? Now, you may say, well, I know that I'm best when doing this, not taking orders from others, working for others and all that kind of stuff, but giving them. So I'm trying to create a company that puts me back in position to be at my best, right? And we got to remember, hey, building the first one was hard, but we were so young and dumb, right? We didn't know that struggle was all right because I guess we were young and dumb and resilient, and we didn't have something to look back on and compare our own selves to.
Mm.
Right? And I remember when I was trying to finish up a master's degree, and I was struggling, and it was, I had to change, I had to go here, I had to, moved out of town, all this stuff. But it was in that everything being a mess that I kept working, kept putting it in, and finally got done. Right? And it's what our friend Robert talks about in Thriving in Chaos. It is chaos all around, but if you find yourself just continually putting in the time, right, in a systematic way, non-emotional, systematic, and we get done, now we can look back on and go, wow. But here we are all in an emotional state, looking at the end and going, oh, man, how the heck am I going to get over there? When before we were just like, well, let's start walking.
It's almost like we're running a marathon, an ultra marathon, and we're sprinting at the beginning. I think a lot of us do that as entrepreneurs because we want to see those results.
Right.
And it's like we're going to burn ourselves out before we even reach the finish line if you don't set a pace. Runners they know the pace. If you're running one of those ultra marathons where you're doing 50, 100 miles, they know the pace that they have to be at. It's consistency in that. And that's what routine is that consistency.
Yeah, showing up every single day. There was a quote that I just heard from Seth Godin. He's been doing the tour for his new book, The Practice. And he spoke about, gosh, I even wrote it down. It was that good. And it really spoke to the showing up every day, and how the showing up every day, doing thing in a paced way, as you put it, how it overcomes our emotions. Because our emotions, say, I want to be done with this book. But the practice, if you will, what Seth Godin talks about, or the showing up every day, when he alluded to this quote, that is the thing that'll get it done. But we want it done. And what's really funny, if we went and got it done, let's say we got a whole bunch of help to get it done or whatever, it wouldn't even feel the same. We'd feel like, well, we cheated because, I had help. I didn't do it myself. I didn't hoist that thing up. Whereas in the beginning, you're like, I don't really want to do that.
Or you rushed it, and it's not the quality that you intended it to be.
Yeah. And you just give yourself another way to kind of beat up on yourself a little bit, right? So that's when Rhonda was talking about that, she says, that's the ego talking, right? And we have to be cognizant of what the ego is trying to do. And just as we hear it talking, we have to quiet it, right? And the approach I like to take is just to quiet it with activity, right? And I've been doing some this new thing that I've been seeing a lot of people do lately, the dopamine detox. Have you heard of that? Oh, I think we talked a little bit about that.
We did, yeah.
The dopamine detox, man, is for real. I mean, and if you think about what it is, it's just it's just a thing that you decide to do. You're getting away from electronics, you're getting away from the noise so that your brain can really take a dump, so that it can go, reset. I'm not constantly getting reminded of what I'm not doing because I'm not on social media, right? And I mean, there's a host of things that they're talking about from social media standpoint, how we are comparing ourselves to the life we're seeing. And if we just get away from that, put our activities in front of us and say, okay, right? I said this to my wife the other day, and she said, what is this word? I said, we put in a yeoman's effort. She said, yeoman, what is that? Well, yeoman's effort. She didn't know what it meant. You know what I mean? And anyway, we put in that effort, right? We're just lining it up and knocking it down. But what oftentimes happens is even when we knock them down, whatever the activity is, we don't give ourselves that gratitude point, that check off. Hey, success today. And this is something that a lot of the gurus out there are reminding us to do, because if you don't, and what Robert talked about in his book, Thriving in Chaos, he says you keep moving the goalpost. And if you keep moving the goalpost, you never feel like you won. So we keep moving the goalposts because we say, oh, I'm capable of more. There's more technology to help me get done. This is a small goal. What am I doing? Right? And we move the goalposts. We don't even get the chance to do the touchdown. Right? And if we just give ourselves that touchdown moment, right? And there's this one book, man, that, wow, this guy really, I didn't think I was going to like this book. And it's by James Clear. James Clear wrote this book, man, and it is Atomic Habits. James Clear's Atomic Habits. It's just, it was all the rage a couple of years ago when he came out with it. Millions and millions of copies sold. But that's what he's getting after. Atomic habits. In other words, let's put a habit so that we can achieve things, right? But he talks about 4 categories, right? How you may have a trigger, right? And I can't remember all the 4 categories, but you talk about the trigger that makes you kind of get something going, right? And then you got to give yourself, one of the main other things that I pulled from that is that you have to give yourself the reward. Right? And how the body likes that. The body says, look, I'm going, as you walk down that street, and he has all these examples of people that used to smoke. And, one lady was, used to ride horses, and she hadn't ridden horses for 15 years and had smoked for 15 years or whatever. And then got back on a horse. And the first thing she wanted to do was smoke, afterwards. She had to still, because the trigger, and she had to really fight it. Now we have those same things. So we ask ourselves, when we start going down these roads of despair, trigger. What did you look at? What did you compare yourself? What did you just hear? Right? And then how can we reverse engineer that to say, oh, I see what's happening. I see your ego. I see you trying to put me into the depressed state. I see you trying to take my joy from what I'm doing right now, and I'm just not going to let it work. We wouldn't let somebody run into our house and take stuff from us, but yet we're going to let our emotions do it? No. We've got to be as vigilant, I believe, in protecting our home from a burglar as we would from the joy burglar, And I think if we consistently put some things in place, right? Like we're talking about it and we're sharing it, and we're sharing it with the world. So we're basically saying, hey, listen, it's not always, freeways and green lights. That even after some success, and think about what we've done. You've created the big old PDF, right? That is the workbook, like 500-page workbook. That's awesome, right? We've written a book together, right? And I mean, we've done 40 plus shows every Saturday, every week. We've shown up. Gratitude points. Our listenership is going up. People are getting, help from what they're hearing. The main thing is that we kept showing up, and we have that to hang our hat on, right? And now this is in the midst of doing other businesses, me teaching, you doing the thing that you're doing, you creating the side company. These are all side companies getting all kind of good press, all kinds of stuff that we're not recognizing. Because the burglar, the joy burglar came into our house and says, yeah, that's not enough. Are you kidding me right now? Right.
And I think that's I think you brought up some key points, and that's why we cannot travel alone. We can't travel solo as entrepreneurs. And a lot of times we do that as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But you have to have somebody that you're journeying with, whether that's a coach, that you're going to and you're speaking with, or whether that's somebody who is in that entrepreneurial space that you could share this with, because we're all going through something at some time or another. And the most businesses fail, and if we're not, and I think that a lot of times, we just need an outlet. We need, hey, have you went through this before? Just some reassurance that we're not the only one wading in the waters, and that this has happened to others that we know, and they were able to navigate the terrain.
Mhm.
Um,
And then the hows, right? Hey, what do you,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I don't believe once we dig into it, we'll probably see that there are probably some entrepreneurial therapy roundtables or something that sits entrepreneurs down, and instead of telling us your success, tell us the emotions
mm,
that you were going through on your failures or what you perceived as a failure. A good friend of mine sent me some information because I had told him one day, I said, man, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And he had to kind of go, are you serious right now? Right. And I says, yeah, yeah. He says, dude, you have. And then he kind of listed off. And I forgot some
mhm,
of the stuff that I gotten into, in terms of, having written books and started things. And he says, and then he gave me two artists that didn't think that they were making an impact on the world, basically. Right. And their works ended up, and so during their time, they were broke, you know what I mean? They didn't get any good press. And then now their work is obviously being held in high esteem. Right. And of course we say, well, I don't want to wait, and then so we start asking ourselves, all right, are we putting the right measures in place? And what should we be putting in place? That becomes, I think, a key consideration. What should we be putting in place that is our ability to say success? And here's one thing. I was reading something that talked about if your journey is only about money, you're in trouble.
mm,
Simply because you may hit it or you may never hit it. And you're it. What if you had put that goal out there? Well, I want to make $1 million this year, right? And then and you say, well, I'm gonna give myself 12 months, and you do it in 3. Now what? Moving the goalpost. So you may find yourself in a situation, a depression, if you will, simply because you hit it too fast.
mm,
And now you're saying, what's next? Hadn't planned for that because you thought it was gonna be so hard. As opposed to saying, I would like to help 1 million people.
mm, mm,
Right. So now you have a different striving. We know that if you help 1 million people, that you're probably going to become a millionaire. But we have it backwards, right?
mm,
So
mm, mm, mm.
uh, we look at the financial goalpost and we go, that's a touchdown. So in your own life, you got to ask yourself, I think, what am I measuring as considered success? And as you guys are listening out there, what are you measuring? And is that the right measure?
Yep.
Right. So I kind of, it helped me rethink my business. And I go, okay, I hadn't considered the amount of competition that was going to be in a certain space. That's a consideration. But did you still help somebody? Right. And
Mm,
then how do you know? Well, I look at it now like, can I say that I was able to, and I'm starting with that idea. I've decided to give a lot of stuff away that I used to charge for
mm,
because I thought I need to help people. So what is the best, quickest, easiest way that I could help them is just by giving them the material. And it was one of those things where it's like, now, if you can help them that way by giving them the material, then you develop a relationship with them, right? You can do the emails and all that kind of stuff. Now you have a chance to have more conversation with them.
mm,
And they go, well, gee, I'm getting all your stuff for basically free. Or I'm putting up pay as you want, pay what you want. Don't no set price, pay what you want. $1, $2, $3, whatever. Pay what you want. I'm opening up, and I got over about 6, 7 different places where I have digital products. Pay what you want. So I'm looking at each one of the areas, the pay portals I have, and saying, do they have a pay what you want option? And then I'm throwing it all in. And what a perfect time to do that during, the Black Friday. There you go. Here it is. Books, giving them away, right? Hey, just give me an email address. And that becomes then the opportunity to look at things differently, as opposed to, I'm going to make $1 million. Don't say, you know what, you might help 1 million people because 1 million people downloaded your stuff and they were able to get some. That's the measure. That becomes the measure. If you want to make a difference in the world. Now, if you say, hey, I just want to make money, well, you may end up doing just that and still being sad. Is that the craziest thing? I mean, but this is what we're faced with. And I think this is where the opportunity lies, especially given that everybody's life is turned upside down right now. If you're living through this pandemic, right, and you're watching, you're scared. I was scared that I had a cold, right? Just the flu symptoms. And I'm scared and running to get a test to see if I had COVID. Didn't have COVID. Thank you, Jesus, right? But it's like, wow, our whole lives have changed. Our expectations have changed, right? Our ability to make money has changed. And really think about this. We're worried about our little problems, our feelings. So we have to kind of keep those in mind. Now, I understand you're the center of the universe. But this is kind of in the bigger scheme of things, right? I don't know, John, if this has ever worked for you, but anytime I've been down like this, man, and feeling a little, when I go out and just help other people, it just brings me back. It brings me, I don't know, it's like, can you give? This is something that Rhonda Byrne talked about. She says when she was at her brokest, no money, had used up all her credit cards. She said she was taking $20 bills. She went and, took her last credit card or whatever and got some money and started giving $20. And then she said she was just going to let how people looked, not look, but she was just going to not decide on who, but just go with, they look like they need a $20. And she said it helped her. So in other words, the helping of others. So during these times, can you look at who can I help? And then this is a rough time right now. Who can you help? And will that might bring you out of it, because you may look at somebody else's situation and go, golly, their stuff is really bad. You may look at somebody and go, they've lost everything. Right. And I had a buddy that did a YouTube video talking about, he lost his mom, her sister, right, is in trouble. So the whole family got COVID. He was somewhere else. The whole family. He could lose 4 family members. And I thought, oh my gosh, think about that. In his family, no illness, sickness, none of the preconditions, none of that kind of stuff. Got it, got sick, died. Read about a 13-year-old girl, right? You remember the 13-year-old girl that was in the news?
Yep.
Here, so she fought against the situation, police and stuff like that, and that big controversy, died. COVID. Are you kidding me right now? So these are, for the entrepreneurs that are listening right now, listen, we're not suggesting that, this is panacea stuff. This is easy stuff, but we start putting in place some things, some solid things that help you get through it. And if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. I'm serious. Get on and form your own group if you need to. I'm sure there's a million Facebook groups that we can get in that are just talking about the subject. Now, we don't want to get in and depress everybody either, right? That's all they talk about is woe. We're not trying to remind the ego and give the ego its way. We're trying to say, hey, what do you do? John, what do you do when you have felt like this before, and what did you do to come out of it?
So what I do is a couple different things. I will try to build other businesses up. Because so whether that's marketing for them or whether that's some kind of coaching, there's satisfaction that comes from that. And there's, and even, when you and I have these sessions, there's something I always walk away with. And even when I'm coaching individuals, there's something that I come away with, whether it's a new way of looking at things, whether they taught me something in the process because I didn't understand of some, something unique within their marketplace that they operate their type of business. But just trying to be able to, what is it that I could look at that situation and take from, so I'm a little bit better than I was 15, 20, a half hour ago,
Yeah.
20 minutes ago,
Yeah.
half hour ago.
And now we have the capability. So think about that. What you just said there. We have a mechanism to bring us out of our doldrums. The question becomes, do we use them? That's a weird thing, right? You kind of go, I know if I took a walk, I feel better. I'm not taking a walk. What are you saying that you want to be in this? You see me? So now we got to start asking ourselves, what is the ego doing to us? What is it trying to do? It's trying to, get us a little attention, maybe a pat on the back, a rub on the head, a hug from the wife. Who knows, right? But we have to fight it, right? We have to fight its ill intentions and then do that thing. Somebody was saying recently that they've never been exercising and being depressed at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we go, wait a minute, but I won't go for that walk.
Mm-hmm.
That will, do the biochemical things in our body that raises up our feel good emotions, right? And if we did that, we know that's helping our body. Who knows? It could have been something that we ate, drank, right? Did that thing that we drink have a mood depressing chemical in it? Right. And that's not woo woo, that's not metaphysical stuff. That's real. That's biochemistry, right? Certain foods have certain effects on you.
It's funny that you mentioned that because the other day I ordered some Malamaya juice, and I had it shipped to me, and I had one before the show this morning before we started recording. But it was that too, because I know what I put in my body, because I know when I treat my body well, whether that's exercise, whether that's reading, whether that's nutrients, that's I'm going to get what comes out of my body. So being cognizant of that, because I'm not always, M&Ms is an addiction for me. So, so knowing that I'm getting those fruits and vegetables, those nutrients that I need, is very important. And we all need to look at that as well, because all of those things, the chemistry of our body, the biochemistry, and they affect the way that we operate holistically.
Incredible. We talked about it a little bit off air, how I says, even though I was getting over a little bit of a cold, I had been feeling pretty good, but this morning it was like, a Mack truck had ran over me. And then I started saying, well, what did you eat? I had been kind of pretty much on a sugar detox, and I hadn't eaten, and I got a favorite food, man. It's, these nut and berry. Oh my gosh. But I would eat too much of them. Right. It's got a couple of nuts in it, some berries and stuff like that, not the ones with the M&Ms, but the ones, I had to give those up for real. But the point is that I would just crush them. And even though it is good for you, right? Nuts, they talk about the nuts and peanuts and stuff like that. It had almonds in it. If you look at the back of that, there's the caloric content of those things are just huge. I was eating my daily caloric content by half a bag, and I'd eat the whole bag. So think about that for a minute, and of course there was the carbohydrate level, right? And if you're trying not to put sugar in your body, and you're just, even if you try to fool yourself into thinking, oh, well, it's a different kind of carb, bro, it's still breaking down into sugar in your body, right? And it's like, couldn't lose a pound, right? I'm thinking, what is going on? I'm eating well. I'm blah, blah. And you start thinking about it. You go, well, you ate your caloric needs for your body height, you ate it half a bag in, bro. and then you ate dinner. And so I cut it out and I had cut that out too. And I thought, okay, this is going good. But last night I just crushed the fruit. Well, fructose is sugar, and your body is saying, stop putting so much sugar in me. What had happened? I wake up like a Mack truck had rolled over me. That's biochemistry. So we start asking yourself, right? We start asking ourselves, and I couldn't hardly wake up. I'm in the shower. I had to call you up and says, man, can we, 15 minutes later? So let's think about this, entrepreneurs. What are we feeding ourselves that also may not be good for the thoughts that we're having? Right. And I'm not even going to talk about the alcohol, drugs, and stuff like that, because nobody does that anymore. Right. But are you doing and eating what you believe may be good for you, but it is wrong for you based on what you may be feeling? The biochemistry of your foods, and maybe eating the uplifting stuff, the stuff that puts, the energy around you, right? The stuff that makes your cells take in more oxygen, all of these kind of things, the breathing, the walking, the all that stuff. If we just says, okay, let's do that. And like you went on the hike. I'm really curious to see, how did the hike go? You went on the hike despite the way you were feeling. So you were trying to bring yourself out of it. Did it help you a little bit?
It felt good to be active, but my mind was, it was never where it should have been. I should have been focusing on, hey, having a good time with my kids and my wife. But from a physical standpoint, yes, it was very good for me. It was that disconnection from a mental and emotional standpoint that wasn't helpful.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I remember when we first started doing this podcast, one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm an all in immersive kind of a dude, right? And I wanted to do them all day, the whole day. And you're like, dude, I got a family. I can't be messing with you, right? And my wife, she has the Saturdays off, right? We do nothing. So, but what I also realize is that it's the thing that brings me joy. So I'm trying to do, and the body loves that. The body says, hey, if that's the thing that gets you all sparkly, let's do more of that. Right. And so that becomes it. I think if there's going to be a transfer of addiction, if you will, right? I don't, do the drug stuff, and I don't get that part. But this is a good high. So then we say to ourselves, what do I need to do more of that? I look forward to these days because it brings me up. Like today, I feel much better now because I'm talking. Last week, I had a little bit of a cold, and it brought me out of it just from doing that thing that brings me joy. So now, with that in mind, entrepreneurs, think about this. This is not about us. This is about us masterminding on a thing. And you look in and go, I felt that way. Can I take some pieces from what those dudes are doing and apply it to my life? Is that something that I wasn't aware of, that I can try, that I can apply? And we're being transparent, saying, hey, look, we have those moods, right? And when you just don't feel like it's working out, or you just go, man, I'm not doing anything based on what I've done before.
And I think that's one of the things people scratch their head and they're like, well, I don't understand how someone like Kate Spade, who's very successful designer, can take their own life. Well, we're all human beings, and there is an emotional state to us. So the world may see the success, but there's also within us, there's a lot more. There's the emotional state, there's the mental state, and all of these other things. And we, as entrepreneurs, tend to be very hard on ourselves because we're driven individuals. And the world doesn't see that. They only see what they want to see, the glamorous side.
Yeah.
But we need to take care of ourselves, the emotional, the physical, the mental, as well. So we can be in a good state, not just for the work that we do, but also for our family and loved ones, and for us to have some joy in life, and not just be in that perpetual state of, hey, I feel like I'm not good enough, so I'm working.
Right. And that's I was talking with an entrepreneur the other day. I did a series of last week, did series of coaching throughout the week, right? And because our entrepreneurs are getting ready for their pitches. So I developed a program called Pitch Like a Boss, which walks them through how to pitch, right? And it was such a great time to be able to walk the entrepreneurs, listen to what they were getting ready to put out, and then put it into a systematic way,
Mm, mm,
right? A systematized way. Hey, let's talk about the problem statement. Let's talk about the customer you're going to solve this for. Let's get into the marketing message, right? And then all just 5 different things, and to watch them go, oh, that's easy with that system. And we say to ourselves, what system do we have to bring ourselves out of a depressive state, a moody blue state, whatever it is? Do we have a system by which we can check off like a pilot, right?
mm,
Before I go in the air with all these passengers, right? Before you do your thing for the day, can I do some checkoffs? Checkoff could be one of the gratitude pieces, right?
mm,
What do I have to feel great about last night? Check off. Oh, what have I planned? What one thing that I can do right now that from a biochemical standpoint helps my body? Well, maybe a couple of deep bends, push-ups, something that makes dilates your blood vessels. So one thing, okay, let's do that. Check offs, right? And then what makes me feel great? And for me, again, it was if I got up in the morning and did any kind of video, the day was beautiful. I don't know what it was. It just, and I could be sitting there, man, like, I don't feel like doing this video. Camera comes on, start doing a video because I think it's that thing where I'm now giving and helping.
mm.
I'm not self-serving.
Yep.
I'm giving. So that part of me says, okay, you have done your giving duty for the day. Now, let's go ahead and package it, send it on, put it on YouTube, and put it out into the world. And that changes everything. But what do I do? Sometimes I like, well, I'll do it at the end of the day. Well, end of the day, you're tired, you don't really feel like it. And you've used up all your willpower, right? But we have, I believe, the prescription sometimes outside of medical prescriptions for us, the things that we know bring us out. The question becomes, will you do it? I was listening to John Assaroff talk on a podcast quite recently, and he says, will you do it? Will you do it? You know what to do. Will you do it? Right? And this is a good question for the entrepreneurs out there. What do you consider success? Right? John, for you, what is it that you consider? And we've got to be honest with ourselves. It might be, I consider success having, $700,000 in the bank or something, or whatever it is, right? But if we're not honest, I just want to help, and you're lying. Now I want more money. Okay. Now we already talked about how that could be its double-edged sword. But if you says, hey, listen, I'd like to help, 1,500 people in the next week. Okay. 1,500 people. All right. Then, then the ideal is to go find an audience of 1,500 people, right? How do I do that? Well, let me see if I can go into a group that has 1,500 people. And then can I give something away? Boom. There it is. It's free. Normally $47, normally $500. Here it is for free. And if 1,500 people, then you've done that thing that you said you would end up doing that brings you out of your situation. But if it's money, and you say to yourself, okay, am I putting in the time? To get your money, John, it's going to take 1,000 phone calls in a week. Now, if we talk next week and I ask you, hey, John, how many calls you make? 20. Then it's a question of, do I really want to do it? Right. And I think that's where sometimes what gets me is I'm thinking, man, sometimes I don't want to put in the work. And that's a point to be honest about. And that's a point to say, what do I need to automate so that it's not me putting in the same kind of work, right? Or that I'm leveraging my time. I can put in half the work. Maybe you don't have the energy anymore. Because think about, John, when you were building that company, you were a younger dude. You're
Yeah.
not an
Yeah.
old guy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think.
you were growing it, your company, you were getting after it. You were hungry. You hear that hunger thing a lot. Are
Mhm.
you hungry?
Yep.
We are getting all the stuff that we need. Think about this. When was the last time we went out and just hunted? I don't mean physically shoot the, deer, but I mean hunted. I want that contract.
Mm, mm,
And I'm going to get that contract because it would make the difference between my employees having a bonus year or not. That's why I think with you, you loved your employees. Because just listening to how you treated them, and you loved going to work on their behalf. That's like having an audience, right? And now the audience is gone because we're these solopreneurs,
mhm.
right? And we can be solopreneurs, sit in our room, but that's a lonely space. I don't
Yeah.
know how Stephen King does it, sit in a room all alone. But Seth Godin talks about it. He
Yeah.
says, look, entrepreneurship is lonely. We sit in a room, we do our thing, and then we come out after it's all done and says, hey, right? If you do that, if you come out and do that. So what mechanism can you put in place, everybody, that gets you to that level of I don't feel bad anymore because I'm just in service to somebody else.
Mm,
And that's what we recommend. This is what I recommend for you. Do that, and it could bring you out. And John, my partner in this podcast, I'm saying that, man. What can you surround yourself with after today that says I helped them? And we said it earlier. Hey, what brings you out? And you told me this, and this. Oh, okay. Are you doing it? Oh, sometimes. Can we do it more? And then the entrepreneur, you know how the entrepreneurs are. It's how many people we've helped, and you don't hear anything else. They don't blow you up on social media saying thank you, John and Randy. Right? They just take the
yeah.
good help and go get the rewards. But if you know you did it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that might help. Entrepreneurs out there, it might help you. And then the money will come. I love what Seth Godin says. He says, look, just do the work every single day. Right. And this guy's got like 7,000 um, blogs, some crazy number. He says 20 years of blogging every day. And he says they don't all work, but he blogs every day. He just decided. And the money is just everything this guy touches turns to gold.
Mm,
We think, but then you listen to him on something, he says, no, I've had a ton of failures. You just didn't see him.
yep.
Consistency every single day, re-goaling, reshaping what is our success. Define that. If we were talking to you right now, entrepreneurs, what would you tell us? This is what I define it. And honestly, don't give us the, I want to make, $10,000 a month. And at $10,000 a month with no debt or no whatever, I can make it a nice little income for myself. Okay, then be honest and say that. Then we'll come back and say, all right, based on what you have put out into the world, how do you believe you can earn that $10,000 a month? If you haven't put anything out there, then that's just wishful thinking. And that's delusion. Right? So that becomes the challenge for you guys out there is to ask that question. Ask it. Be honest. And then ask yourself, are you putting in the work or is it
Mm,
just delusion? And if it's delusion, cut it out. Right? So, John, entrepreneurial therapy roundtables, what do we have? I know Rebecca Span over at About You Counseling, that's here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I don't know if she takes out of town people, but I would assume with telehealth, she can talk to anybody.
yeah. There are a couple people in this space that I've met with. And if anybody wants to send me an email or Randy an email, we can get you in touch with those individuals. But it's looking at different perspectives, and we have to realize that we're harder on ourselves than anyone else. And we fail at things more than anybody else because we do more than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, en- Entrepreneurs are, I mean, a good entrepreneur, and it's that old Michael Jordan saying where, you know, I've missed more shots than I or whatever than I than I've made.
Mhm.
And it's you know, doing things, not scared to take the shot. I mean, he took the shot so many times in clutch situations, and that's what we do as entrepreneurs. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out, but not being defined by all of those moments, not being defined by our personal perspective on things. And maybe it's time you bring somebody else in, and hey, you know, am I just jogging in place here, or am I doing something? And listen to what they say and what they're seeing as well. um
I like
have a
that. I like that analogy. Jogging in place. And if you are you still getting in shape?
mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's treadmill. That's jogging in place. But
Yeah.
it's not that there's no value there. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
It's there's value there. You're jogging in place, right? And that's why, you know, I one of the things, if you think about jogging in place, it depends on what your goal is. Well, I'm trying to get to the store. I'm jogging in place. You're not going to get to the store. But I'm trying to get healthy.
Yep.
Jogging in place. You're going to get healthy.
Yep.
Right? And that is how you're defining success. For you, John, let's, you know, how if, you know, and I don't know if you want to be this, you know, open about it, but when you were able to compare that feeling that you were feeling
Mm-hmm.
with what you said to yourself, am I being successful? Was it like some particular factors? Was it a financial factor? Or was it just a feeling?
I think it was a multitude of things. It was the fact that if I had a friend and they needed a project like an emergency or something, and I had a team or I had the equipment where we can just go out there and just knock it out without charging. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Where it would have cost them $10,000, $15,000. We just had the resources to be able to do those types of things. The education standpoint as well, from my team members, the building with, we had a curriculum and we were building up leaders. And I that was something that I very much enjoyed as well. And being able to reward individuals is a big one as well. I actually just created my own ineffable awards because I thought every year, you know, we used to have a celebration with our team, and I would give out these really nice, I don't know, crystal, you know,
Mm-hmm.
awards and whatnot for different things. And it's like, I don't have anybody to do that to anymore. So I ordered these boxes of this coin. I don't know if you can you see
I
that?
see it. Yeah.
And it, on the back it says, "Forgive and hope, showing love and teaching what is meant by displaying gratitude." And I've given, I just got them a couple weeks ago. I've given 12 of these out already with a certificate. I have a certificate, but just for people who are doing great things that I've seen some of the work
I
that they're
certainly didn't get mine.
not yet, right? Not yet, not yet.
So you're putting in place. It sounds to me like, hey, you need you are at your best when you're running a company, right? And that in
Yep.
that company has certain structures. And in that company structure, there are certain, you know, checkoffs and stuff like that that you're best suited for. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
That's kind of like the I remember reading something about by Peter Drucker, and he talked about how sometimes the executive could not be a startup person.
Mm-hmm.
The executive that works at like a GM, and I'm probably messing this analogy all up, but that executive could not become an entrepreneur because they need certain levers in place. They need certain structures in place for them to be successful. That's a question I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially ones that have come out of the 9 to 5 space, want. And this is what I noticed personally: the hardest adjustment is the one that you make to your time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you went to the company, whether it is, and I started thinking about this, what did I like most about working? What did I like most about working for other people? And sometimes it's like the people, even if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
like them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was the building, all of these things. So I wonder how many people that are now at home, and initially it seems like this is a godsend, that will start missing
Mm.
that other structural pieces. And then that starts affecting their feelings. They are no longer around people. They're no longer observers of other people's lives. All these little factors, right? That has broken down as a result of being having to stay home. So I went and I started asking. I says, "Man, I liked going to get the coffee. That was the first thing. Went over there, go to drink the coffee, go to your desk, open up your emails. Answer some emails. Right? Somebody comes and hollers at you. Hey, I got a problem. You solve the problem. They go on their way. Right? You at the end of the day, you got nothing done, but you solve problems. Blah, blah, blah. I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then every week you got to check. Now you're entrepreneur. You're out there doing the humpity hump, right? And you get paid based on how much you go, how many traps you go out there and set, what you kill and drag home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different, right? Even though you can make way more because you can set up as many traps as you want to, it's still different. And the body likes repetition.
Mm-hmm.
It likes sameness, all these different things. Now it's all been disrupted. So I wonder if that also, in your particular case, hey, look, you like the company to the point where you're going out and doing some of those same little things. That might be the thing that brings you out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I've had startups before, and I think that's so different about the startup that I have now is that I don't have people that I'm working with. It's not, nothing is ever guaranteed. I mean, there were slow times, there were bad times.
Mm-hmm.
There were times we were making less money in the other companies, and other times we were very prosperous. So it wasn't that so much, but it was this journeying alongside of others, and the mentoring, and being able to say, hey, I'm impacting lives by jobs and mentoring and building up leaders that are going to transcend into new positions and whatnot someday. I think that's the piece. And then the whole structural piece
Mm-hmm.
of a company,
Mm-hmm.
setting up processes and procedures and all of the backbones of a traditional company. um, I miss setting that structure, that infrastructure up, as well. And that's something, even setting up an educational type program, or setting up a safety program, or being able to speak into, or continuous improvement or whatnot, being able to speak into that, and see what you're building and how it comes to fruition, and the fruits of that. It's
That's
a lot.
good.
It's a lot different when you're doing this by yourself, um, opposed to, hey, I'm doing this and I'm impacting 50 people or whatnot.
And that's digging into that. This is why we wanted to do this particular show on today, simply because, John and I both were in that same, feeling space. And again, this is irrespective of, success that we've had in the stuff that we've done. Think about what we just talked about and those things that we're missing. And if they're missing in your life, right? How do you create that environment again? right? How do you go from, gosh, I really like this kind of thing, a company, right? And I remember reading about Steve Jobs and how all he wanted to do was create a company. He kept going to Wise and saying, yeah, but we'll have a company, right? We'll have a company. That means we'll have all these levers. We'll have all these opportunities. We'll have these impacts. So it might be, well, but I'll have a company. Right. And I've seen some of the ideas that you put forward, and they usually involve multi people. Right. And I'm like, man, that's too many moving parts based on what we can get done with in today's way. Right.
Yep.
But now hearing what I'm hearing now, I understand it. So, if there was a solve to this, right, we're problem solvers, then we ask ourselves, can I build a team? Can I build a company even in our disconnected way that satisfies the company person in you? That means you're going to be showing up at 8 or 9 in the morning. That means you're going to be drinking coffee. That means you're maybe online with your company and growing it versus this, all alone, lone ranger, lone rangeette, whatever approach.
I think you can. I mean, I've been in the international space where people are in different time zones as well. I'm 13 hours difference and whatnot. And I think there's the way that you can do it where it's not in the office, but you're journeying to a goal together.
Yeah.
So I believe that it could be done in the same type of space without having a physical office space that you go to every day. And I think business is evolving and we're learning new things. We've learned a lot over the last 9 months on companies. And I think some of the things that organizations have adopted will be permanent post-pandemic. But I think what it is having building something that is bigger. Do you get what I'm saying? That is multi faceted. I want, I received your text message this week, and I wanted to talk with you later about that. But it's I see things in a perspective that it's not about the one thing, that it's a multi-dimensional. And I think a lot of companies are going to go this way. And Amazon is, I think, one of the iconic examples when you look at, because, first you think Amazon Books, and then Amazon is in this owns, doing shipping products, and then Amazon has its own product line, and now Amazon has groceries, and Amazon is going to have health clinics. And yeah, I mean, there is no end in sight for, how big this thing could get. Pretty soon, Amazon will have drones that are delivering packages. They're already working on prototypes for these types of things. So just being able to see something at a level that is, in the distance, I really enjoy, even though I know that there are moving parts and things change constantly. I really enjoy that strategic part of business.
That's good stuff. And so we're hearing the blueprint of what it might take to bring you out of that feeling of, am I being successful? Am I making a difference? Have I outlived my usefulness? All that. We're hearing how that might come back to you in terms of changing that belief. Right? Now the question becomes, will you do it? Right. And for the entrepreneurs out there, will you do it? You know what'll bring you out of any feeling that you're feeling. Our body helps us understand what we need. Big question is, will we do it? So that's our challenge to you. Get out there and do those things that you know will bring you out of this moody blues, the entrepreneurial blues, right? And get after it. And we'll see you next week for sure. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, John.
Yeah, thanks, Randy.